What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for August 12th, 2022. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. The first time in a while I've been able to do a SmackDown audio review on Saturday itself and not on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or whatever, and I'm actually able to do one on time. I'm slowly but surely catching up after being backed up before and after SummerSlam weekend, but nonetheless, this was a very good edition of SmackDown. Could not wait to talk about it, and it is not often that I've said that this year here on these audio reviews, that the Blue brand had a strong show, but that's what I thought this was. I thought it was a strong show, specifically by the SmackDown standards of a month or so ago. It's been better in recent weeks. I liked last week's show. The return of Karrion Kross really ended the night on a cliffhanger last week. We had another return on this show, a great main event for the Intercontinental Championship, and some solid stuff kind of sprinkled throughout the episode as well. So 2 thumbs up for SmackDown this week. I hope Triple H can keep it going and maintain the excitement that SmackDown currently has, along with Raw. We actually found out on this show, coming up on Monday night, for the United States Championship, live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., very fitting that the United States Championship will be defended on that show. It's going to be Bobby Lashley defending against AJ Styles for the first time ever. Now remember, we almost got Lashley and AJ a few weeks ago when Ciampa beat AJ in the number 1 contenders match. Ciampa got the shot instead on Monday's Raw. AJ, who was kind of the runner-up, so to speak, is getting the shot now after beating Miz on Monday's Raw this past week in that no disqualification match. So really pumped for that. They announced that, and I think the continuation of the WWE Women's Tag Team Title Tournament, it's going to be Alexa Bliss and, I almost said Doudrop, Alexa Bliss and Asuka taking on Doudrop. Hopefully soon to be Piper Niven again. She mentioned that in an interview with Alex McCarthy, that she wants her name back. Triple H apparently receptive to the idea. Very exciting stuff there. Her and Nikki Ash, hopefully soon to be called Nikki Cross again, in the quarterfinal match in the WWE Women's Tag Team Title Tournament. Speaking of which, that was what kicked off this show. Another quarterfinal match. Raquel Rodriguez and Aliyah taking on Xia Li and Shotzi. Quarterfinal action here. Good stuff. I actually thought the match was fine. Not a great match by any means, but it was, honestly, when I say good stuff, I mean better than it probably should have been, considering the, I don't want to say the lack of talent involved, but I really have not seen anything resembling an above-average match from Aliyah, Xia Li, or even Shotzi so far on SmackDown. And Raquel has had some good showings against Ronda Rousey, but she really hasn't had that breakout performance yet, aside from those Ronda Rousey matches. So I wasn't really sure as far what to expect as far as like the in-ring quality of this contest was concerned, but it ended up being decent, and the crowd was hot for the baby faces. At least it sounded like it. I mean, it sounded like there was a lot of piped-in crowd noise on this show for whatever reason. Vince is gone now. It doesn't really sound like we have that on Raw. Maybe it's a Fox move at this point. I don't know. Assuming that we do have crowd noise, maybe we don't, and I'm just imagining things. I don't know. But they sounded very hot here for Raquel picking up the win for her team, and the match was fine. So I actually like the idea of Raquel and Aliyah teaming together. And Raquel had that great dynamic in NXT with Dakota Kai. They worked very well together. That Shawn and Diesel-esque, dynamic that they had in NXT as the tag team champions twice. Very briefly, but twice. And she kind of had that here with Aliyah. So if this is leading to, I don't want to see them as tag team champions necessarily in this tournament. I guess they could win the whole thing. The end game, whether it's soon or in a couple months or whenever, the end game of this tag team, assuming it sticks and it wasn't a one-off, should be Raquel beating up Aliyah and turning heel. Aliyah is a perennial jobber. She plays that role well. She's not very good, but she plays the jobber role well. Raquel was born to be a heel. She worked well as a babyface towards the end of her stint in NXT, but that was because the audience had built up a respect for her in being dominant and being champion for so long. The crowd on the main roster doesn't see that story arc because it really hasn't been acknowledged. She's just a woman that smiles a lot on SmackDown. So I think it would help if she arrived on SmackDown as a heel, then turned face, but they started her out as a face, and I hope she turns heel at some point. And I'm sure Triple H probably will make that move at some point when it makes sense. We heard that report a few weeks ago from wherever that he's hoping to kind of fix everyone that's currently miscast. Hopefully Raquel is on that list at some point, and Shotzi as well. Turn Raquel heel, turn Shotzi face. Far better in those respective roles. But Raquel and Aliyah moving on. They will face the winners of next week's match in the quarterfinals. It's going to be Natalya and Sonya Deville, who are at ringside for this match, taking on NXT's Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark. A very random team. And listen, I would have liked to have seen Toxic Attraction in the tournament, but the thing is, they needed a babyface team. And then you probably ask, well, why not Casey Catanzaro, Katana Chance, whatever, and Kaden Carter, or Yelissa Leone and Valentina Feroz, I think is what their names are from NXT. Two good babyface tag teams, but they probably don't want to put an established team in there just to lose. They're building up Feroz and Leone right now. They're obviously building up Carter and Chance. They're the current tag team champions. They don't want to put an established team from NXT in there that's going to lose. And I doubt Lyons and Stark are getting called up anytime soon permanently. At least I hope not. Specifically in the case of Lyons, she is far from ready for that spot. Maybe she impresses next week and I change my mind. Probably not, though. But anyway, so they needed two notable names from NXT, and I thought it was a good choice, so I really don't have any complaints about them being in the tournament. After that, we had Drew McIntyre out in the ring calling out Karrion Kross. But prior to this, we actually heard from Karrion Kross backstage in a promo alongside Scarlett, who we did not hear from. And I don't remember if we really heard from her all that much in NXT, if at all, but it was all Karrion here talking about why he came back, and he was cast aside. He's been waiting for this opportunity for a year now, and Drew and Roman are the chosen ones, and Karrion is essentially the broken toy, is what he called himself. I love that idea, that story, and I tweeted this last night. It seemed like a lot of people agreed. I love the idea of Karrion Kross going after the people that WWE chose to focus on instead of him. Karrion should have been the chosen one, and honestly, he's a guy that you would think Vince would like and would want to push, but he didn't. He brought him up, fucking killed this push, and fired him within months. Instead, they focused on Roman, and they focused on Drew, who are really the chosen ones, quite literally and figuratively in storyline. So I think that's great. A Karrion-Drew program in the interim, while Drew also feuds with Roman, is perfect. When Roman's not around, and he'll be back on the show next week for a face-to-face with Drew, which I'm looking forward to. But I like the fact that Drew is feuding also with Karrion in the interim, and it gives Karrion something meaningful to do right from the get-go. So I like this a lot. Drew called out Karrion, made no mention of his dumb mask from early on in his main roster run last year, which he did reference in a tweet last week. I'm not sure if they want to draw attention to that on the show itself. But anyway, Drew did not mention that, but he was intense, and I liked his delivery of his promo here. He called out Karrion, got Scarlett, and we kind of got a taste of the Karrion-Scarlett entrance on the main roster. And Karrion did have the same theme when he got called up, but it was without Scarlett and without the smoke and mirrors and shit. She walked out, she was turned around, and then turned around towards the ring, walked towards the ring. We heard part of the theme before it kicked into the chorus in the Fall and Pray part, and it looked cool. I'm really looking forward to Karrion's entrance on SmackDown for a match, or for the full thing, the full garb and whatever. I'm looking forward to that. But Scarlett came down before she can enter the ring. The Usos ambushed McIntyre from behind. And I love what Triple H has been doing with Raw and SmackDown in recent weeks with the show-long storylines. We've seen it on Raw in recent weeks with Bayley's group and Bianca. We've seen it on SmackDown in recent weeks with the Usos, Sammy, and Drew and whatever. So the Usos laid out Drew here. Drew went after them backstage. Sammy did not make the save. He was backstage with the Usos, and he ran away before he could make the save, and Drew went after Sammy. So that led to an impromptu match later on in the show that I'll get to momentarily. The Raiders, specifically Ivar, was supposed to face Kofi on the show after Kofi beat Eric 1-1 last week. While Kofi was making his entrance, or actually while the Raiders were making their entrance, Kofi attacked with a kendo stick. He ultimately was outnumbered and laid out. I think it was Ivar who jumped off the guardrail on top of Kofi, which looked cool, and demolished their shield and his face and whatever. So that was pretty well done. And next week it was announced we're getting a funeral for the New Day on the show next week. So fine angle here. I thought this was a good way of putting the heat back on the Raiders. Ronda Rousey returned right before the contract signing for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So we were supposed to get, and we did, get a contract signing between Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan ahead of their SmackDown Women's Championship match at Clash of the Castle next month. But Ronda returned before then. The way it was shot was perfect. She was, they showed the table in the ring, Cole and McAfee were talking over it and whatever. And then all of a sudden, you see Ronda Rousey emerging from the audience, kind of in the background. A lot like with Dexter on Raw this week when the focus was on AJ, but in the background you see Dexter Lumis being taken away by security. I thought that was really well done here. Her promo was not well done. That was not very good at all. So that happened, but she addressed being suspended and being back. She has a lot of money, so she dumped a bunch of money on the table, paying her fine, whatever. And then she walked away. Shayna came out, And this, I like this and I didn't like this. I liked it in the sense that Shayna was told by Ronda, you used to be a killer before Ronda walked off, giving me hope that Ronda and Shayna will be aligned in some way moving forward and that we're going to get badass Shayna Baszler back in the main roster. What I thought was weird about this, though, was when Shayna said, oh, you're supposed to play things by the rules here, and that's not how it works here in WWE. You play by the rules and get what you want that way. Coming from the woman who has been a heel the entire time she's been on SmackDown. I mean, she fucking, I know she played by the rules in the gauntlet last week, but it wasn't like they were teasing her and Liv having a friendly competition here. I mean, she went after Liv's arm right after this, and even last week, she wasn't like, oh, Liv, I can't wait to face you. No, it was typical Shayna Baszler. So Shayna saying that before Ronda said what she did was kind of uncharacteristic for her. But the actual tease I thought was well done. The contract signing was fine. Shayna and Liv went back and forth. Shayna went after Liv's arm. Liv's still wearing the cast after she was had her arm broken by Ronda at SummerSlam, I guess, is the storyline. So she was an idiot in that she talked shit about Shayna and then she walked away. Why wouldn't she think that Shayna would go after her? That was a little weird. So Shayna attempted to beat her up, was going to put her through the table. Liv reversed, put Shayna through the table instead. I was fine with that, not thinking, oh, they got to put more heat on Shayna, which they do, but Liv cannot be made to look like a loser week after week, so I thought that was fine. We also had the return of Hit Row, which I did not write here in my notes. I'm not really sure how I missed it, considering it was the best part of the show. But Hit Row came back on SmackDown. There were rumors in the last couple of days from PW Insider that Top Dollar and Ashanti the Adonis were on their way back to WWE and would appear on the show. What we didn't know, and now you know, was whether B-Fab would be with them and whether they would be called Hit Row. And if they were reporting that Adonis and Dollar would be there, but not B-Fab, I'm thinking that's pretty on the nose. So I'm thinking, okay, they're probably coming back without her. She was never really that good in the ring. The gimmick is not complete without her or Isaiah Swerve Strickland from AEW, obviously. But, maybe they won't bring her in. And whether they would be called Hit Row. Because if you only have 2 of the 4, it's not really Hit Row. 3 of the 4 is enough to me to make it Hit Row. So she did come out with them. I thought the way they did it was well done. They faced 2 job guys. And the crowd, they gave them a pretty good reaction. I mean, they were only on SmackDown for literally a cup of coffee. Maybe not literally, but they were really only there for 2 or 3 weeks. Made all of 1 or 2 appearances. Maybe only had 1 squash match on the show, and that was it. So the fact they got a good reaction in Raleigh, North Carolina, which I think is where they were on Friday, was pretty impressive. Top Dollar looked motivated. Ashanti the Adonis looked great. B-Fab came out with them, who should not wrestle. She is not good in the ring. But as a talker manager, she's perfect. And they also called themselves, after the match was over, the OG3. Now, I know Top Dollar said on Busted Open Radio earlier today that they actually, which I did not know, came up with the gimmick. Now, the group was based around Isaiah Swerve Scott in NXT, and when they came up to the main roster, I mean, there were rumors when they got called up that the group would be all about Top Dollar and not Scott, but whatever, not about Swerve. So I thought it was all Swerve's idea because he was doing nothing in NXT. Before that group came to be, Swerve was doing jack shit. He was in the breakout tournament. He was in the cruiserweight division. He wasn't doing anything. And the group came along, and then it was like, okay, now we're going here. And he won the North American Championship for a brief period. So, and he never defended the fucking thing, I don't think. But it was all his group. I didn't know if it was his idea. I thought it was. Apparently, according to Top Dollar, it was not. They already had the stable worked out, and then they threw in Scott to kind of be the centerpiece of the group, which I think worked wonderfully. But like I said, he's in AEW now. He's not coming back for this. He was not going to wait around for this to happen. Who knew that Triple H was going to be back in power? I saw some people shitting on this, and that's fine if you're not a Hit Row fan or a fan of Top Dollar, whatever, that's okay. I love them as a tag team. Top Dollar and Adonis work well as a tag team. They have charisma. They have an amazing theme song. B-Fab adds something to the group as a manager. I think this is a big plus for SmackDown. To me, will Top Dollar ever be a world champion? Probably not, but he doesn't really need to. At some point, you can focus on him on his own if you want. Adonis, I'm not really sure is that guy, but as a tag team, it works. This company needs more fucking tag teams. This helps with that. They got more women back in the form of Io Sky and Dakota Kai. Dexter Lumis can help out the mid-card. Karrion Kross can help out the main event scene on SmackDown. Now these guys in B-Fab can help out the tag team division on SmackDown as well. So I think it's a big plus. I'm a big fan of the move, and I think they have a lot of potential. Will they be the team to unseat the Usos as tag team champions? That I don't know. I wouldn't think so, but, it's possible. And, I just like this a lot. I was just really happy to hear the fucking music again. I never thought we would hear that music on WWE TV ever again. With Swerve being in AEW, and without him, was it really Hit Row? The answer to me is yes. I think Hit Row can still work even without Swerve, even though he was the centerpiece. I don't think Swerve should have been in the group as a tag team guy. He really would have been the mid-card guy, upper mid-card guy on SmackDown, which I'm sure Triple H probably would have pushed him as if he was still free. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Hit Row being back, and I think it's sky's the limit for this group. And at least they can fail or succeed on their own merits, and not because Vince didn't like them or one of them rubbed him the wrong way. And he's been rubbing a lot of other people the wrong way, quite literally over the years, as we found out in June. But no, I'm glad that they have another chance of success, and I think they can go far with the right push, at least in my opinion. So we did get Drew in the ring with Madcap Moss, and this started out as Drew against one of the Usos on their own. It was a singles match. And then it turned into a tag team match once Madcap Moss came out and the other Uso got involved. So it was a tag team match from there. Solid stuff. McIntyre and Moss won, which, I mean, you're not going to have Drew lose before he challenges for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Clash of the Castle. But you also probably should not be beating your tag team champions of over 1 year. And they can absorb the loss. They'll be fine. But I just thought that was weird. But McIntyre and Moss did win, especially given the history, too, between Moss and McIntyre. They do not like each other. Moss literally almost had his career ended by McIntyre by accident earlier this year when they were feuding, so that was a little weird. But anyway, the match was fine. I would not have given McIntyre his revenge over the Usos so quickly. I probably would have waited a week or two to do that, but it killed time, I guess, so that was one way of going about it. Throughout the show, though, we got a lot of video packages and a lot of talk about the Intercontinental Championship, which closed out this show. And I went back and looked at it. We haven't had the Intercontinental title defended in the main event of Raw or SmackDown a lot in the last couple of years. It happened once earlier this year when Ricochet, I don't think, beat Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. I think it was the rematch they had on SmackDown back in March, I want to say, that main event of the show. And I remember there also being a four-way for the IC title in the main event of the show back in May of last year. So not a lot of times. I think that four-way was with Big E, Apollo, Sammy, and Owens. And we had them back in the main event here. This was a terrific match. The presentation of it was great. The video package recapped their feud and recapped their rivalry. And everyone of importance who has held that Intercontinental Championship. Pat Patterson, Tito Santana. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, The Rock, Randy Orton, and the list goes on and on and on. I thought that was great. This is the most important that championship has felt in literally years. That title has not felt important in a very long time, and this went a long way in establishing credibility and prestige for that championship. So, I thought this was really well done, and the match itself was great. It was a hell of a hard-hitting affair. Nakamura gave it a great effort. The crowd really thought he was winning by the end before Gunther won in the end, ultimately. He looked fantastic. They had great chemistry, and the result was what it needed to be. 2 thumbs up all around. They closed out the show on a high note with this one, and I think they can keep that championship on Gunther for a very long time, and I hope they do. But before then, though, before he loses it, and I don't want to see it happen there, but I do think he should face Sheamus at Clash of the Castle. I think there's a reason why they did this match here and not wait for the pay-per-view. And I think it's because they want to do Gunther and Sheamus on that show. Sheamus should absolutely, unquestionably, given his European descent, obviously, being of Irish descent, be on that fucking show. It would be a crime if he wasn't. And I don't think he should win at this point. He really wants that championship. It doesn't even have to be face versus heel. It can be heel versus heel. That crowd will not give a fuck. Those two would go in there and kill each other. And I hope that's what they do. So overall, I really like this edition of SmackDown. I thought it was a strong show. We got the return of Hit Row, a fantastic main event. The stuff with Drew and the Usos and Sammy was well done. Ronda and Shayna, that tease was well done. The continuation of the women's tag team title tournament. And we also had some stuff with the Raiders and Kofi as well. So I like the show. There was some other stuff that happened in backstage segments. No need to recap it here. But the Maxima male models potentially being recruited by Los Lotharios, and they went up to Sophia Cromwell's character, Maxine Dupree, instead of Max Dupree when they were wanting to join the group, so that was interesting. And then Corbin also attacked Ricochet backstage, so we'll see what happens with that. So, good show this week. Really enjoyed SmackDown. I hope they can maintain this quality and keep it an enjoyable show moving forward, and we don't have to go back to the dark days of the Blue brand from, I say the dark days, but it was literally 3 or 4 weeks ago. This show was the drizzling fucking shits. And it feels much more meaningful now. So hopefully they can keep it up. And when I say they, I mean Triple H. Because so far it's worked out well for him as the head of creative in WWE. So thank you guys for checking out my audio review of the August 12th, 2022 edition of SmackDown. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Check out my Talking Smack SmackDown Lowdown review coming up soon here on the channel today. That episode of SmackDown Lowdown dropped earlier on Peacock, so I break that down here today on the channel. Tomorrow should be my interview with WWE Hall of Famer, two-time WWE Hall of Famer, Shawn Michaels, before his A&E biopic, documentary, whatever you want to call it, on A&E tomorrow night alongside the rest of D-Generation X. So that interview should be dropping first thing tomorrow here on the channel. And on Monday, another episode of the Next Panel podcast with myself and the boys, breaking down the Phase 5 lineup as announced at San Diego Comic-Con a few weeks ago. So exciting stuff right now here on the channel. If you're not already subscribed, and if you haven't already hit the bell button as well to be notified of all the new videos, please do so. I'd greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.